This is the guide for section 1-2, the skills practice in order of operations. And it is page 13 of your homework. So the first part asks us to evaluate each expression, and remember that evaluate means to find the answer. So when it says 8 squared, it's asking you, what does that equal? So 8 squared means 8 times 8. The squared means how many times 8 is multiplied by itself. So there's 2, and that equals 64. The next one is 3 to the 4th. The 4th means that the 3 gets multiplied by itself 4 times. So it's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81. The next one, 5 to the 3rd, means that the 5 gets multiplied by itself 3 times. So we have 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25, times 5 is 125. Then we have 3 to the 3rd. That means that 3 gets multiplied by itself 3 times. 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. All right, in the next one, again, we are evaluating each expression. And so we have in parentheses, that's the first thing in please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We have in parentheses 5 plus 4, so that's what we do first. So we do 5 plus 4 is 9. The next thing in please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, the E, excuse, stands for exponents, which we don't have any. And then my dear means to multiply and divide next. And we have 9 times 7 is 63. Same thing in the next one. Please stands for parentheses, so we do the 9 minus 2 first, which is 7. And then we don't have any exponents. And then my dear is the multiplication division step. So we multiply 7 times 3 is 21. The next one, we don't have any parentheses, so there's no please. We don't have any exponents, so there's no excuse. And then the first thing we run into is the multiplication, so my dear. So the first thing that we're actually going to do is that 6 times 3, which is 18. So we're going to have 4 plus the 6 times 3, which is 18. We don't have any division. And then we have Aunt Sally, which means addition and subtraction. So 4 plus 18 is 22. The next one, same thing. We don't have any parentheses. We don't have any exponents, but we do have multiplication. So we do this multiplication first. And we have 12 plus 2 times 2 is 4. Then we move on to the addition subtraction step, and that's all we have left. So 12 plus 4 is 16. All right, in number 9, we have parentheses, our first step. So we do what's in the parentheses first. 3 plus 5 is 8. And then we still have the rest, times 5 plus 1. We don't have any exponents, so we move on to the multiplication division step, and we have 8 times 5. Well, that equals 40. And we still have plus 1. And then we move on to the addition subtraction step, and that is 40 plus 1 equals 41. In the next one, we have parentheses again. 3 plus 1 inside the parentheses. So we have 9 plus 4 times 3 plus 1 is 4. So 4 times 4 there. We don't have any exponents, So we move on to multiplication division, and we have 4 times 4 in that step. So we have 9 plus 4 times 4 is 16. And 9 plus 16, once we do our addition subtraction step, is 25. All right, in the next one we don't have any parentheses, we don't have any exponents, and then we do the multiplication division step, which is the 5 times 4. So we have 30 minus 5 times 4 is 20 plus 2. Then we move on to our addition subtraction step. And addition does not come first, they just go from left to right. So since all I have left is addition and subtraction, I'm going to go from left to right, and I'm going to do 30 minus 20 is 10. And then I'm going to keep going to the right, so 10 plus 2 is 12. Next one, very similar. We have no parentheses, no exponents, but we do have a multiplication. So I'm going to do that first, and I'm going to have 10 plus 2 times 6 is 12 plus 4. And again, I have an addition subtraction step, and I just move from left to right. So 10 plus 12 is 22, and then plus 4 is 26. All right, moving into bigger things here. I don't have any parentheses, but I do have an exponent. So this is what I'm going to do first. So everything else stays the same because I'm not working on those steps yet. And then I just do 3 squared, which means 3 times 3, which is 9. Next thing I move on to is multiplication and division. And it's not that multiplication comes first. They just are on the same step of that ladder, and they go from left to right. So the first thing I run into for multiplication and division is 14 divided by 7, which is 2. Everything else stays the same because I haven't dealt with it. And then the next thing I run into for the division multiplication step is 2 times 5, which is 10. Everything else stays the same because I haven't dealt with it. And so then I have 10 minus 9 is 1. So all this ugly mess in 13 comes out to just be 1. All right, the next one looks a little bit tricky, but when you have multiple sets of parentheses, basically you treat each new thing as a problem. So I go inside the parentheses first. So I'm going to look at the stuff 30 minus, and then in parentheses 10 minus 2 times 3. So I'm going to pretend like that was the original problem they gave me. And again, I'd look for parentheses first. So I'm going to do what's inside the parentheses that's already inside the parentheses first. So I'm going to do 10 minus 2 first. And everything else stays the same since I haven't dealt with it. So 10 minus 2 is 8. Okay. And I still have parentheses, so I still need to do what's inside the parentheses first, and that's 30 minus 8 times 3. But again, inside the parentheses, I still have to do, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So inside the parentheses, I no longer have parentheses, but I don't have exponents, but I do have multiplication. So I'm going to do this 8 times 3 first. And 8 times 3 is 24. And now inside the parentheses, I have 30 minus 24. So I'm moving on to the addition subtraction step inside the parentheses. And 30 minus 24 is 6. And that's going to help me get rid of my parentheses. Whoops. So that's going to be 6. And then my last step is 4 times 6. That's all I have left, which is 24. All right, in number 15, I have again 2 sets of parentheses. So I look inside the first set of parentheses, and I still do all of those steps. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally first. So everything else is going to stay the same. So inside these square parentheses, I have another set of parentheses. 6 times 1, or 6 minus 1. So that's what I need to do first, the stuff inside those parentheses. And 6 minus 1 is 5. Then, inside these parentheses, still working on that, I have an exponent. So I do that next. 5 squared is 25. So 5, inside the square brackets, I have 30 minus 25. And then the last step inside the square brackets is addition, subtraction, because I don't have any multiplication in there. And so then I have 5 plus 30 minus 25 is 5. And 5 plus 5, my last step, now that I have the parentheses gone, is 10. Number 16, again, 2 sets of parentheses, so I'm going to work with the inside stuff and treat it like it's its own problem. So I'm going to do inside the brackets, I'm going to do the parentheses first. So the first thing inside those brackets that I will do is the parentheses. 5 minus 2 is 3. Then I have an exponent, so I'm going to do that next. And 3 squared is 9. And then the brackets, the only thing I have left to do is 12 plus 9. So I have 2 times 12 plus 9 is 21. And then the last step is to multiply 2 times 21, which is 42. All right, we're moving on to a different type of evaluate. When you evaluate number things like we did, number problems like we just were doing, all you need to do is find the answer. When you evaluate expressions, they tell you what to put in for each variable, and then it's just like we were doing. So the first step in all of these is to put in the numbers that they say. So it says x is 6, y is 8, and z is 3. So anytime I see those letters, those are the numbers I'm going to put in for them. So in the first one, it says x times y plus z. So x is 6 times y is 8 plus z is 3. So 6 times 8 is 48. That's my first step because I don't have parentheses, I don't have exponents, and then the next step is multiplication and division. And then plus 3, and my last step is addition, subtraction, so 48 plus 3 is 51. Then I have number 18, y times z minus x. Y is 8 times z is 3 minus x is 6. So I don't have parentheses, I don't have exponents, I do have multiplication. So that's the next thing I run into. 8 times 3 is 24. Minus 6, that's my last step. 24 minus 6 is 18. Number 19, I have 2 times x plus 3 times y minus z. So 2 times x is 6 plus 3 times y is 8 minus z is 3. I don't have parentheses, I don't have exponents, but I do have 2 sets of multiplication. So I'm going to do those together in my next step. 2 times 6 is 12, and 3 times 8 is 24. And then my last step is addition and subtraction are just done from left to right. So I start 12 plus 24 is 36. And then minus 3 is 33. Number 20, I have 2 times x plus z, in parentheses, minus y. So 2 times x is 6, plus z is 3, minus y is 8. So the first thing I look at is parentheses, and inside the parentheses I have 6 plus 3. So I'm going to do that first. I'm going to go 2 times 6 plus 3 is 9. And again, I could very easily write this as 2.9 to show that it's being multiplied. And then still minus 8. I haven't done that step. So the next thing is multiplication, which is the 2 times 9. Since I don't have any exponents, I do multiplication next. 2 times 9 is 18, minus 8. And the last step is addition, addition, subtraction, which is 18 minus 8, which is 10. Okay, we're still working with x is 6, y is 8, and z is 3. So in number 21, I have 5 times z plus, in parentheses, y minus x. So 5 times z is 3, plus, in parentheses, y is 8, minus x is 6. So, according to Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally, I have parentheses first, which is 8 minus 6. So 8 minus 6 is 2. I don't have any exponents. I do have multiplication. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 2, and my last step is addition. So 15 plus 2 is 17. In number 22, I have 5x minus, in parentheses, y plus 2 times z. So the first thing that I'm going to do is plug in those numbers. So 5 times x is 6 minus y is 8 plus 2 times 3. So the first thing that you look at is the parentheses. And remember, inside the parentheses, you also follow the order of operations. So inside those parentheses, multiplication is going to come before addition. So I'm going to do multiplication first, addition second. So 5 times 6 is going to chill out for a while because I got to deal with the parentheses. So the first thing I'm going to do is 2 times 3 inside those parentheses. And 2 times 3 is 6. Then, still inside the parentheses, I'm going to do the addition now. So I'm going to have 5 times 6 minus 8 plus 6 is 14. Okay? Now that I've gotten rid of the parentheses, I can move on, and I don't have any exponents, but I have multiplication. So I'm going to do 5 times 6 next, which is 30, minus 14, and 30 minus 14 is 16. Number 23, we have x squared plus y squared minus 10 times z. So x is 6 squared plus y is 8 squared minus 10 times z is 3. So in number 23, I don't have any parentheses, but I do have exponents. I have 2 squared exponents. So I'm going to do those first. 6 squared, 6 times 6 is 36. 8 squared, 8 times 8 is 64. Haven't done the multiplication yet. Okay, the next step after exponents is multiplication and division. I have one of those, 10 times 3. So I'm going to do that next. 10 times 3 is 30. Addition and subtraction is my next step, and they go from left to right. So 36 plus 64 is 100, minus 30. And 100 minus 30 is 70. So in 24, we have z cubed plus, in parentheses, y squared minus 4x. So z is 3 cubed plus y is 8 squared minus 4, and x is 6. 4 times 6. So the first thing that we do is inside the parentheses, and we treat that separately. So inside the parentheses, the first thing I have is exponents. So I do that first. I have 3 cubed outside still. And then I have 8 times 8 is 64. And then 4 times 6 is 20. 4 times 6. Then inside the parentheses, my next step would be 4 times 6. So still outside, I have 3 cubed plus 64 minus 4 times 6 is 24. 64 minus 24 in the parentheses is next, and that is 40. So 3 cubed plus 40. Then outside the parentheses, now that I've gotten rid of those, I still do, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So now I'm going to do the cubed. 3 cubed is 27 plus 40. 27 plus 40 is 67. All right. And our last problems. We have y plus x times z over 2. Y is 8 plus x is 6 times z is 3 over 2. And remember, when things are written as a fraction, it's basically division. So we're going to treat the top of our fraction like it's in parentheses, and then we'll treat the bottom of our fraction like it's in parentheses. So the first thing that we do is the parentheses, the numerator, and inside there, the first thing we run into is multiplication. So we have 8 plus 6 times 3 is 18. And then inside the parentheses on top, we have 8 plus 18 is 26. And then we have 26 divided by 2, which is 13. And then in the last one, in number 26, we have 3y plus x squared over z. So we have 3 times y is 8 plus x squared, x is 6 squared, over z is 3. So again, we're going to treat it like the top and bottom are in parentheses. So we're going to do them first. And on the top inside the parentheses, the first thing we're going to do is the exponent. So we're going to do 3 times 8, and 6 squared is 36. Still over 3. The next thing we're going to do is 3 times 8, multiplication. So 3 times 8 is 24, plus 36. And then the last thing inside those parentheses is 24 plus 36, which is 60, divided by 3. 60 divided by 3 is 20, excuse me.